So what if I told you there's a different way to see the world? A shift in perspective so powerful, it could literally change your relationship with everything around you, and yeah, even with yourself. Well, today we're going to dive into a framework that does exactly that. Let's start with a bit of a puzzle. Think about it. A newborn baby is completely, totally helpless. It can't feed itself, can't protect itself, nothing. And yet, it holds this almost magical power over every single adult in the room. So where does that incredible power actually come from? The source material we're exploring today puts it in this really beautiful way, comparing parents to moths drawn to a flame. They just serve this tiny, helpless being, tirelessly. You see, this isn't a power of strength or intelligence. It's something else entirely, something much more fundamental. All right, so here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to start with that baby's strange power, then get into two fundamental ways of seeing reality. From there, we'll apply it all to our own ego and see how this connects to philosophy, revelation, and believe it or not, even the rise of golden ages in history. Okay, first up, the power of helplessness. Let's just tackle that paradox head on, right? The key to this entire way of thinking is understanding that a baby's power doesn't come from what it has, it comes from what it lacks. The source actually gives this state a specific name, akis and FAKR, which you can translate as a kind of deep dispositional helplessness and neediness. It's the recognition of being utterly, completely dependent, and that state is what inspires love and mercy and care. It's a power rooted not in being dominant, but in just being sincerely in need. And this brings us right to the core of our explainer today. The whole thing hinges on this idea that there are two fundamental lenses, two ways you can view absolutely everything, from a bird singing outside your window to your own existence. So let's break these down. On one side, you have the self-referential view, also called menai esmi. This is when we see things only for what they are in and of themselves. You look at something and ask, what's in this for me? How can I use this? But on the other side, you've got the other indicative view, or manai harfi. And with this lens, you see that same thing as a sign, as something that points to its maker. You ask, wow, what does this signify? What greater reality is this pointing to? Okay, so we have these two lenses. Now, let's see what happens when we apply them to maybe the most complicated thing we know, our own ego, our sense of I. So the question really becomes this. Is yourself the absolute owner of your qualities, the center of your own universe? Or is it more like a mirror, reflecting qualities that are actually coming from somewhere else? When we look at our ego through that first lens, the self-referential view, it basically becomes a black hole. It sees itself as the ultimate purpose of everything. It's a view where the I is the final stop and everything else is just fuel. But and this is a huge but, if you switch to that other lens, the ego is completely transformed. It starts to see its most precious qualities, things like free will, wisdom, power, even beauty, not as things it owns, but as a trust. They're on loan, given by a true owner. And that makes the ego a tool, a reference point for something infinitely greater. Now get this. This perspective isn't about destroying the ego, not at all. It's about repurposing it. Our own limited, temporary existence, our smallness, becomes the very instrument that lets us begin to understand something permanent and infinite. Our limitations become a window to greatness. You know, this isn't just a personal struggle, it's a historical one. So how has humanity tried to understand the self? Well, let's turn to the grand search undertaken by philosophy. According to our source, materialistic philosophy, in its honest search for truth, often gets stuck in that first lens. It analyzes things from the inside out, looking at them just as they are in themselves. And while this gives us tons of valuable knowledge, it can miss the bigger picture, what these beings might actually be pointing to. And this is where the source introduces a second, complementary stream of knowledge into the picture. So in contrast to philosophy's inward focus, divine revelation offers this stable, outward-looking perspective. It defines every single thing, from an atom to a galaxy, primarily by its relationship to its creator. It provides the foundation for that second way of seeing, that other indicative view. So here we are. We have these two powerful paths to knowledge, the analytical mind of philosophy and the meaning-giving light of revelation. The source argues that we're not supposed to pick one over the other. The real magic happens when they work together. What you get is this powerful synthesis.
Philosophy's earnest search for truth gets illuminated by the stable light of revelation. The how of existence that science and reason discover gets infused with the why offered by faith. And that combination, the source says, leads to a truly profound and complete understanding.
And the result? It's historic. The claim here is that the greatest periods of human flourishing, actual golden ages, happened at the exact moments when these two great streams of knowledge were brought together, creating civilizations that were balanced by both incredible intellectual curiosity and a deep spiritual purpose. You know, the source material actually finishes with this powerful poem that ties all these ideas together. It starts by reminding us of that feeling, the pain of meaninglessness. And here it is, a perfect summary of the two ways of seeing we've been talking about. If you see the world only through the self-centered ego, everything just exists to serve the eye. But if you see the world as a letter, as a sign, then suddenly everything points to something so much greater, to the divine. And this stanza just brings it all home. Philosophy's quest, all by itself, can sometimes accidentally hide the very truth it's looking for. But when you unite it with the light of revelation, it doesn't just find answers. It builds the very foundation for those incredible golden ages of human history. So much of our world feels temporary, right? This whole perspective asks us to look beyond that, to see what's permanent. And it leaves us with one crucial question, a question for you. What changes in your own life when you choose to see the world not just for what it is, but for what it signifies?